Hello everyone, my name is Swamp, and once again, I would like to read you a story. From the same people who brought you I'm Black but I Look White, the Huffington Post now presents I joined a far-right group of moms. What I witnessed was frightening. I caught a gleam in the woman's eye I didn't like. Was there some flirtation with insurrection being suggested here? By Phoebe Cohen. Look out for the trigger words, the woman says. She's perched on a chair in front of the room. She's well-dressed yet funky with elegant boots, a demure sweater, and some colorful jewelry. Equality, diversity, inclusion, marginalization. These words are CRT. If you see these words in your kid's homework, you need to speak out. I'm in a meeting held by a local right-wing moms group. It's an organization catering to mothers who are bent on protesting at school board meetings to stop the supposedly evil critical race theory agenda from being taught in public schools and address other typically conservative concerns. Critical race theory is not currently being taught in public schools. Oh, well, that settles it. There are about 20 of us. We are all maskless, all apparently white, mostly women, and all on the younger side. I'm in my early 40s and I seem to be the oldest person in the room. A group of children, including my son, the only one in a mask, are scampering merrily in a play area down the hall while a young woman with a baby in her front carrier keeps an eye on them. On the wall by the door of our seminar room is a sign. It says, "Children should be heard, respected, encouraged, loved, appreciated, guided with compassion, given freedom to learn without coercion." What exactly that last phrase means is ominously vague. For several years now, I've been worried about the increasing right-wing views that I've noticed in my demographic, white suburban women. Before 2016, I always thought of Nazis as mainly historical villains that belonged in Indiana Jones movies or old newsreels, or the sad stories my grandfather told me. Now, however, as the last Holocaust survivors are dying, I am aware that fascism is creeping back into the world at large in terrifying ways. I wanted to know how I could fight against the appallingly stupid yet dangerously widespread disinformation that is entrancing many of my friends and neighbors. Basic facts about COVID-19 are being dismissed by whole states as part of the, quote, liberal mainstream corporate media. Bodies from COVID victims were stacking up in ICUs and filling the morgues back in 2020. Yet I was still called a child abuser by people on the street because I made my son wear a mask. Why are people going nuts? Why are people dismissing science and history in favor of conspiracy theories? And, most importantly, how can we nudge the nation in a saner direction? I was especially curious about activist groups that specifically target suburban women. These groups seemed intent on making life more dangerous for my child. According to my local right-wing women's group, masks should not be allowed in schools. They told us to stop worrying about kids dying of COVID. Yeah, I don't think that's what they said. They were also vocal about not wanting racism and its deep, formative history in the United States to be taught. Again, I don't think that's what they said. Some of these people literally do not believe white privilege exists. Well, yeah, I do believe they said that. Because, according to them, the Union soldiers who fought in the Civil War were overwhelmingly white. No, I don't understand that argument either. Others feel parts of our country's history shouldn't be included in curriculums if it makes people, namely white people, uncomfortable. And no one ever said that, and no one stood up and clapped. Every teacher I knew was struggling with COVID restrictions and dealing with students venting their post-pandemic trauma through increasingly disruptive behavior. School districts across the country were dealing with staffing shortages due to teachers burning out from stress and vaccine mandates. Why add to teachers' difficulties by threatening school instructors who dare to teach topics like Jim Crow laws, the civil rights movement, and the repercussions of slavery in America? To learn more, I joined a local right-wing Facebook group for moms. Oh man, that was hard to do, I bet. It's a private group that requires aspiring members to answer some questions before they're granted entry. One question was, why do you want to join? I replied, I want to be more involved in my kid's school. A week passed, and then a moderator for the group contacted me privately. Can you be more specific about what issue most concerns you? Yikes. Security was apparently very tight with this group. They weren't going to let just any mom glide in using a few generic answers. I'm mostly interested in issues that involve keeping kids physically in school, I messaged back. Zoom school was devastating for my kid, and I don't want that to happen again. I wasn't lying about any of that. It's one of the few opinions I share with many conservative parents. The moderator sent me a thumbs up emoji and let me into the group. Wow, what tight security. Unfortunately, a few of the moms may have become suspicious of me. Perhaps I had liked too many comments by moms pushing back against the anti-CRT posts. Wow, yeah, what a crazy far right-wing Facebook group. Perhaps some moderators had found the very liberal comments that I had posted on other public news articles. Listen, lady, you're not that important. In any case, when I expressed interest in joining an in-person roundtable discussion event, I saw that the location of the event suddenly disappeared. I messaged the group moderator about the event location. Just a heads up, she messaged back. I think most people will not be masking. Is that something you'll be comfortable with? I wondered if she was trying to frighten me off. Yes, that's fine, I replied. No, she was being considerate because she saw your insane posts. I never received the location, but luckily I had written it down before it disappeared from the event post. Man, that's some serious 007... Oh, no, wait. That's some serious KGB stuff there. I think you probably like that better. I drove to the meeting with my son. The group moderator had been right. When I joined the meeting, I saw that nobody in the packed room was masked. I gritted my teeth and sat down anyway. I was fully vaccinated and my son wore a mask. He was the only one. I listened to the speakers at the meeting while they discussed how to run for, campaign, and pressure school boards. Many parents bemoaned how they had to pull their kids from public schools over mask mandates and instead enroll them in private schools. It was a common story. I got the impression that most of these families had income levels that allowed them to pay thousands in private school fees because they wanted to take a stand on masks. I was probably the poorest person there. And probably the best one, right? Because that's what that means, doesn't it? There was a lot of anger directed at teachers. Rat out those teachers, one mother instructed. Find a lawyer who can challenge these teachers. Another woman disdainfully noted that teachers don't even know what they're doing half the time. They just pull it off the internet. A third woman said, there is no discipline for teachers outside of taking away their credentials. The battle lines were clearly drawn. Another woman raised her hand. Look, I know we want to change school boards, she said, but elections aren't until 2023. What do we do until then? We can't just sit around and let them attack our kids. We have to do something. I caught a gleam in the woman's eye I didn't like. Was there some flirtation with insurrection being suggested here? What exactly was she saying? Another woman nodded. Listen, we've tried playing nice, but they just dig in their heels and dig in their heels. We have to start being not so nice. Kind of like the left. I didn't like where the discussion was going. The moderator guided the topic back to safer ground. Be pleasantly persistent, she smiled. Be annoying. Be the woman at the school board meeting who always shows up. Be the person who, when the meeting organizers see you, say, oh God, her again. Be that person, and please try to get people to vote in the municipal elections. Fair enough. A lot of the roundtable debate felt like a Republican version of a Run for Something meeting. Run for Something was a movement started after Donald Trump won the presidency that was meant to encourage young progressives to start their own campaigns for local political office. The right-wing women's group seemed to be following the same model, but there was an undercurrent of rage among the group members that I had never seen in a Run for Something meeting. Sorry, all right, continue. Despite my uneasiness, I couldn't help but find myself liking the women in the group. They were charismatic, they were energetic, they had no problem letting my low-functioning autistic son play with their children, which is unfortunately rare among a lot of the other mothers I've encountered. Wow, even you don't like the people you hang out with. But this made me even more uneasy. Oh, come on! I realized these women were dangerous precisely because they were so friendly. Their condemnation of history lessons about Ruby Bridges and Jim Crow laws and Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. were repulsive. They were trying to suppress the truth by labeling the unassailable facts of racism in the U.S. as divisive, equality, diversity, and inclusion were not virtues to be celebrated but trigger words with a poisonous intent. This nefariously clever bit of relabeling disgusted me. There was a very clear far-right agenda at work here. I am currently still a member of this local right-wing women's Facebook group. It has helped me to understand where these people are coming from and just how motivated they are. My membership could end up being rescinded, however, as I plan to attend a few upcoming school board meetings to defend the accurate and honest teaching of all parts of American history, especially in regards to racism and what it has meant and means to be black in this country. And thank God we have a 40-something-year-old white woman to do that. I can't stop thinking about the gleam in that woman's eye as she said, "We just can't sit around and let them attack our kids. We have to do something." Though some people think merely tweeting our outrage or frustration is productive, it's not. Those of us fighting against the far right need to be more aware of how energetic and organized they're becoming and the lengths they're willing to go to in order to get their way. Right-wing activists are attending school board meetings in hopes of transforming our children's education and ultimately their lives and the future of the United States. It's time for us to be just as active to ensure this doesn't happen. We must fight for our children's safety and their right to learn our nation's history. Even the ugly parts, especially the ugly parts. After all, when ugly history gets ignored, it tends to be repeated. And there you have it. A far-left 40-something-year-old white woman infiltrates a far-right mom's group. Realizes that they're all pretty nice, and actually they're pretty reasonable when talking with her and considerate of her and her son, but walks away knowing that they're even worse than she originally thought. Pure evil. I mean, it's all stuff she had to infer, not based off of anything they said, but oh, she knows it. She knows. These accepting white women are bad news. What the world needs is a 40-something-year-old white woman to tell us what it's like to be black in America. My name is Swamp, and thank you for joining me for Storytime.